Audrey's ready to go. So I'm sitting here at Texas Steakhouse table. Okay. Call me after the meeting. I will. Okay. I need to discuss something.
I'm just blown away that a school board thinks it's okay to set the role model to ignore laws that they don't like. I'm struggling a lot. This is one of those ethical dilemmas that we talk about in 605, right?
Yeah, and then in school law in 603
And school law
next semester you'll have. So and Jennifer, you've already gone through that 603 because Jennifer with this, she put the cart before the horse with this, but she's already gone through Dr. Lamb and those things. So they've got a lot to look forward to, don't they, Jennifer?
Oh yeah, they keep it rolling at Garner Webb now. There's no slack time, no time for slack.
Hey Jennifer, do you want to try to Zoom together and let's look at your competency folio after class?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, great.
Okay, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for being here. This is one of those weeks again, but it's your last week like this, for this semester. But it's worth it because I think it gets you off to what we hope is the right foot, the right start, a good foundation for what we're doing. Let me share the screen. And again, you can find this in your Dr. Revis, I did send you the agenda, didn't I?
Yes, and I did post it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I had sent it to you. But this is kind of what tonight's going to look like this evening, and we'll come back to the top part again. And because of a lot of what we said last night, we won't spend camp out a lot of times. But this is where I want you to mainly look at week 7 last week. This is what should already have been submitted to Dr. Revis and me, and you should be cleared with all of this. And if you haven't, then you need to be communicating with Dr. Revis and me, and most of you have, about what it is. We need this as soon as possible. We need it cleared.
And Dr. Stebbin, if I could just make a couple of comments. I noticed right before class, I went into the competency folios, and I've got about 3 of you that have requested comments that I have not looked at. So, but I will get those.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at mine because I haven't been at a computer to look at mine. I've been in meetings all day, or either getting stuff from Walmart. So I've free stuff from Walmart. So I haven't looked at it. I'll look at it tonight after I settle down after class. But then just the AAPTEL is history. It's pretty much history. So those of you that owe us stuff, get it to us. And then the week 8 responsibilities, this is what includes. Remember, this is the last thing that involves any work with the AAPTEL, and that's your case study, because you're to relate it to your work with the AAPTEL. And from this point on, notice in green, as everything that we did previously was in red, and that meant it was for the AAPTEL, what you see in green from this point on is going to be for the AAPTEL. So just look at that. So case study basically is the only thing that is due to us by Sunday of this week. And several of you have already submitted that work to us. So, but just remember that is basically the only thing. If you've cleared the AAPTEL, that's the only thing that really is due to us this week. So it's a little reprieve. But while we're doing that, we need to go ahead and look at week 9 next week. Week 9 is next week. We will not be doing a Zoom session. It is basically considered fall break, but that just means that you won't be coming online with us. It doesn't mean that you won't be working. We expect you to work. We'll be working. You can't, this is an opportunity to really to get ahead of the game and plan and organize for what we're going to talk to you tonight about the AAPTEL. So week 9 is really just getting started on the AAPTEL. AAPTEL, I put it down there again, but really this should not apply to anybody. You should be cleared with us if you've got anything out there by this week with anything that's hanging out there with the AAPTEL.
Dr. Stedman, can we report out on our scores so far?
Yes, we're gonna come back up there. So that yeah,
Okay.
that's why we're gonna come out up there. So that's I wanted to share that with you. And this is in Blackboard. So let's go ahead, Dr. Revis, and let's talk about the AAPTEL and the competency folio, and I'll let you start.
Okay, well, out of 18 of my students, 13 of them have submitted to TaskStream for the evaluator, and we have 11 out of 13 had 4s, perfect scores. So congratulations, guys. Then I had one 3.8. That's nothing to sneeze at, and a
Right.
3.6.
Right.
So I'm still waiting. I've got 2 that still haven't been scored. I just checked right before, and I've got 3 who need to turn theirs in. So I'm looking for more 4s.
So, and that's basically I had 18 students. I have, unless they were submitted this afternoon sometime, I have 2 that still need to submit for final evaluation. And again, I want to say, if you scored a 3 point, I would say a 3.4 or above, that's still considered A work. So you know that's nothing to feel badly about. But out of the 18 in my class, I'm waiting on 2. I had 2 3.8s, and the rest were 4s. So congratulations on a job well done. So, and then the competency folio, I think I'm waiting on 1 that needed some remediation work done to it, editing, and then I'm waiting on, I think, 2 Revis to submit, 2 or 3 to submit, and other than that, the rest of your group are completely cleared with the 12 competencies for the AAPTEL for the competency folio. So we've accomplished a lot there.
I cannot report those good results. I think my group beat your group this time, Dr. Stedman.
Well,
I think I have 3
well,
waiting. So I have.
excuse me. They're my group for the competency folio.
Right. I still have. That's right. I still have 9 people who haven't put anything in.
Well,
I
I
have 5 that need to go back and do some revisions, and but I'm still waiting on those 9 to get something in. So guys, you know, come on, let's get this done this week, and you got a little reprieve this week. All you have to do is work on your case study if you've not already done that. And let's go ahead and get those competencies knocked out. I will tell you this, I'm pretty strict on the competency folio this first semester, because if you get started off on the wrong foot, it really impacts you all the way through your program. So I'm pretty strict on making sure that you're doing leadership, demonstrating leadership outside of the classroom.
Right.
And that you're putting in your artifacts. If it says calls for an AAPTEL, you're using an AAPTEL. If it doesn't call for an AAPTEL, you've got to put open-ended in. So just making sure that you get off on the right foot makes your folio go so much smoother the rest of your time.
Right. And I will say this, I'm not even gonna ask names, Dr. Revis. Remember, Dr. Revis and I said to begin with that she was mama and I'm daddy. Mama's spoken, and don't let her have to turn names over to daddy for daddy to have to speak. So I want it done. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay. But anyway, so we're gonna move on. The purpose of this evening, we need to get you started on the AAPTEL. And again, that was briefly introduced last night. But we do want to get you started on that. We're not going to focus on the whole AAPTEL because that will be reinforced again on Thursday evening. But we do want to go ahead and get started on task 1. Dr. Revis, I don't even foresee, unless they've got a lot of questions, chances are we will not even take the whole hour tonight, and that gives them a chance to get started on some things. So I'm going to pull up this document, Dr. Revis, and then we're going to just piggyback with some things. Well, first of all, let me do this. Let me pull this up. I want to show you something. And this is in your Blackboard shell. Okay, after you turn in your final screenshot, and some of you still need to turn in your final screenshot for your grade. But this is basically everything up here is over with, unless you just need to go back and refer something. This is where you start. The AAPTEL task and prompts, the AAPTEL template and material section, the AAPTEL task for review. And again, it follows the same process. The AAPTEL completed peer review Dropbox, the AAPTEL assignment Dropbox. And then when you get down here at the end of this semester, when you finally turn evidence to in for final grade. But this is where I want you to camp out for. All of this under week 8 is information that we will use between tonight and Thursday night, but it's going to be great materials for you to come back to. This is actually a PowerPoint that I'm going to use on Thursday night, but I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go ahead and show it to you tonight, but you're going to see it again on Thursday night, so just don't tell anybody. Dr. Hamilton, and y'all keep her in your prayers. She's having a very difficult time with mom, and she's having to relocate mom to an assisted living home on Thursday, so she may not even be able to be with us. She's having to take her out of one, and she's just really having a hard time. So just keep Dr. Hamilton in your prayers. But if not, we will pick up the slack and we will handle her part. But and then Dr. Revis will do the PowerPoint for task 3, and then either I or Dr. Crawford will do task 4, and Dr. Lamb will be with us to chime in as needed. So again, these are lots of materials that's going to be available to you, and these PowerPoints are going to be valuable. So just remember that they're there. But this is where I really want to camp out, is under the AAPTEL template and material section. There is lots of stuff here. This is your template. Do not deviate the template. Remember what we said before. If it's in black, it stays. If it's in yellow, remember that means that you've got to do some narrative work. You do the narrative work where the yellow is, and then you take the yellow out. If it's in red, those are suggestions of things that you can include in there. But once you use that information, then you take the red out. So the red goes away, the yellow goes away, and all the black always stays in the same format that it's presented in. So there's your template. Then you've got your AAPTEL helpful hints document, and this, we're going to refer to this tonight. That is going to help you tremendously. Then you've got your AAPTEL at a glance. There's a little PowerPoint that Dr. Revis will refer back to this back and forth. It's just a one-pager. Remember when Dr. Lamb at the very beginning of the semester introduced you to Qualtrics, and he shared with you how to use Qualtrics to do a survey. And remember we said to try to steer away from SurveyMonkey or other things, but to try to use Qualtrics to develop your own. These are the materials and resources that Dr. Lamb shared with you. You can set up your own Qualtrics account. He's going to go over this briefly again on Thursday night, but this is where you would camp out with that. Remember on Monday night last evening when Dr. Lamb was sharing his the MTSS for teachers, that information, and Marzano's this is where you find all that stuff. Everything that he shared with you last evening, this is where you find it, and you need to use it. Everything that you need there based on Marzano, and you'll use a lot of Marzano. All of that is in there, and we've even listed some other stuff from previous semesters that you can refer to. Over the course of the next couple of or 3 weeks, we'll be talking about a needs assessment. All of this information right here, as we talk about task 1 of the AAPTEL, we have provided examples of where you can go find information that will help you with those 5 areas that we're going to talk about tonight. But I want you to look. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. Lots of stuff that we have put in there that you use it. And then we will add to this, as we find new stuff, we can add to it. And if you find something that you think would be good for everybody, send it to Dr. Revis and me and let us look at it. And if we think that then we'll put it in this as a resource as well. So, share some good stuff if you've got it with us, and we'll be glad to find it. Use it as well. So with that in mind, I want to pull up actually, I want to pull up Dr. Evans. I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint for tomorrow, because that's going to help us. Again, you're going to see it again, so don't worry about it. But then remember, evidence 2 is the AAPTEL and analysis and action plan for teacher empowerment leadership. Remember what Dr. Lamb stressed last evening was that you're looking at the ultimate purpose of this. You're going to build I call it a staff development plan. It's a plan for improving what teachers do inside that classroom and outside that classroom. And so our focus is going to be in the AAPTEL, how to do that. Remember, we said that even though you are a teacher, many of you are teachers still, you've got to think as an administrator. And your job is, at this point, is you become a teacher of teachers. And teachers, remember, teach students. You teach the teachers, you prepare the teachers so that they are excellent at their craft, at what they do, so that they can teach the students. And the ultimate goal is that student achievement will improve as a result of all of this. So I've said all of that. Basically, it's the second of 6 evidences. You're going to follow the same format as you did with the APSL. Your cover page is going to be same, except it's going to identify evidence 2, and you can put your name there, and you're going to call it the AAPTEL. Your profile is going to be the same unless you change schools. or unless you want to edit something. So that does not change. We've talked about the purpose, and we'll go over this a little more. This purpose continue, but this is where we want to get started. So, Dr. Revis, would you like to begin talking about task one based on what you see there?
Yes, I'll be glad to. Let me get my notes out because I'm going to give you some authors. In your first prompt, guys, you're going to be doing research. Say that again. In your first prompt, you are going to be doing research in these 5 areas. Okay. Not only are you going to do research, but you have to have at least, is it 3 resources or references for each section? Is that correct?
Yes, 3
3 references. Okay. So now let's talk about research. Where have you done research before? If you remember back in the AAPTEL task 1, you did research on a PLC. You wrote it in narrative format. You used correct APA to do in-text citations. That was a literature review. You did it again in some of task 4, where you had to provide a little research. So make sure that you don't forget your APA and make sure that you are citing at least 3 references for each of these sections. Now let's look at this.
Dr. Revis, I went ahead. I think they'll get it better from the help
Yeah.
from this document. So let's
First,
do that.
Yeah, let's look at this first example. Building efficacy and empowerment among staff. Now, let me tell you a couple authors that you need to look at here. You need to look at Bandura. Bandura, Bandura, seminal work on efficacy, teacher efficacy.
Dr. Revis, let me say something again, and I'm not picking on Carl. Carl reached out to me because he had already started working on this. Carl, this is where I was telling you to do something differently. Your focus is going to be taking efficacy to a different level than what you did you basically just talked about what efficacy is. Now you're taking it to a different level because you need to focus specifically on building efficacy amongst teachers and amongst your staff. And that's what Dr. Revis is talking about. So that's why I said that you couldn't just pull from what you had already done in the app. So this is really taking it to a much deeper level. So go ahead. Go ahead,
Okay.
Dr. Revis. I'm sorry.
Todd Whitaker has some things out there on teacher efficacy. His is more on teacher empowerment, I believe. But we would want to see Bandura, and I put it in the chat box. Somebody asked me to respell it, and Todd Whitaker. Now, those are not the only ones out there. You can see this first resource this student has cited. I can't read it. It's such small text.
Hoy is one of them, and Hoy is, you will see in all of Bandura's work, all the work that he has done, he is basically considered the father of efficacy. He's the one that really just introduced the word to begin with, and it has grown from that. And the reason, Dr. Revis, the reason that is Albert Bandura and I are almost first cousins. I did my dissertation was on teacher efficacy, and the impact it had on student achievement amongst middle grade students in the public schools of Robinson County. So so Albert Bandura and I have spent a lot of time together. So.
I bet so. So you can see it's written in narrative form. You want to tell what teacher efficacy is, and of course you'll cite an author there. Scrolling down, let's see. There's Henson, Hattie. Hattie's a good one there. There's Whitaker.
And again, there, I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. So, but anyway, it goes back to a minimum of 3 references, but it doesn't mean you can do more if you need to, but you have to do at least a minimum of 3 references there.
So you can go ahead and start on all this research now. You don't have to, right now, you don't have to pull together a team. The next section is results-oriented professional development. Now, let me give you Linda Darling Hammond, and I'll type it in the chat in just a moment. Linda, well, there it is as a
There
reference.
she is,
Linda
right there
Darling
already.
Hammond. She has put out a lot of seminal work on results-oriented professional development. Not the only one, but I would want to see her as one of your resources.
At least one of them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And this person found something in your text, oven text. Don't forget, you can use your text. You can use the resources that we have uploaded in your Blackboard shell that Dr. Stedman showed you just a moment ago. Your third topic, recruitment, placement, and mentoring of school staff. That's a big, 3 big topics right there. Recruitment, placement, and mentoring. Be sure you pay attention to all 3 of those pieces and not just the mentoring, so to speak. I think for the mentoring, what authors do you have there, Dr. Stedman?
Smith and Ingersoll. Ingersoll, you're going to see Ingersoll's name a lot. Even with you'll see it tied in with Bandura as well. He's tied in with a lot of that as well. You see,
Okay.
well, and again, there's so many of them out there. Once you start your research in the area, look at the references that they've got for, like if you look up Smith and Ingersoll with this, then they're going to have a lot of other references that you can refer to as well. So the reference sections for the research that you do will lead you to just other researchers. And again, and they can do a bulldog search with this too as well, Dr. Revers.
Exactly. Exactly. And the next heading is approaches to and for evaluation of school staff. Now, we do not want you to go into a deep litany of the North Carolina teacher evaluation process or the South Carolina teacher evaluation process. What we want you to do is look for research. What does the research say about approaches to or for evaluation of school staff? You would probably want to see some things about, informal observations or walkthroughs, instructional rounds, those kinds of things. And, what is the purpose of teacher evaluation? How do you know that teachers are doing what they're supposed to be doing? It's not that formal required evaluation. That's not what we want you to focus on.
And in each of these areas, you're basically looking at, according to research, what are the best practices in these areas. That's a good way to look at it. What are the best practices based on research in each of these topical areas that we're talking about?
And then your last heading is teacher leadership and decision making. And here I would like to see Todd Whitaker. He's big on teacher leadership as one of your authors, but there are others as well, but you need to have at least 3. So all of this is your research in those 5 areas.
Okay, Dr. Revis, I want to take you back. I want you to look at these topics again, and then I'm going to show you something. Okay, go back to the first one. The first one was, again, dealing with building efficacy and empowerment among staff. Then I want you to look at the next one. Again, results-oriented professional development. I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to minimize it. Then I want to, let me see if I can find okay, I was actually, okay, oh, here's what I'm looking for. Okay, let's go back to your Blackboard shell. Okay, now remember, okay, that's the template and materials. Okay. Making teacher. These areas right here, see, teacher efficacy. We've already built something in there. What is it and does it matter? So that's some information that's going to help you right there get started. 5 ways to improve teacher evaluation systems. The principal's role in new teacher induction. Making teacher professional development decisions based on program effectiveness. We've already providing instructional leadership through classroom walkthroughs. We've given you some information that you can use that will help you get started already. Already built in there. So if you decide you want to use that, then it's okay. You know, that if in this case, if everybody has some of the same information, because we have shared that with you.
And guys, that's the end of prompt 1. So all of that is research that you need to start looking at your authors, and you need to start developing your narrative for prompt 1. You do not need to convene your team for task 1. Now, prompt two of task 1, let's go back to that.
Okay.
Is
okay. I pulled up the wrong thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, prompt 2 is where you're going to identify. I'm going to underscore that word, identify. Not use right now.
Okay.
Identify a survey and a checklist.
Okay.
The survey. Okay, let's do the checklist first.
Okay.
Prompt 2. You have to identify a survey and a checklist. This is the survey right here. A survey, and if you notice, this is Todd Whitaker's work. Teachers have input on professional development offerings at the school. Teachers play a role in the development of the school improvement plan. Teachers play a role in setting school-wide policy.
Dr. Revis, let me point out something. Remember though, and we needed to correct that, this came after, we had this before we had Qualtrics training. Remember Dr. Lamb said, don't have that middle section, have strongly disagree, agree, or strongly agree. Don't put the neutral area in there, and we need to correct that, Dr. Revis. I'm glad we caught that, because that's what most people will end up doing, straddling the fence and not making a concrete decision one way or the other. So again, that's in there, but do not use neutral in your work, okay?
The 4th question, this is only 5 questions. Teachers have input on the development and management of the school budget. And lastly, teachers play a role in the hiring process for new teachers. All right, you may say, well, can I make my own up? No. You either need to take this one, and I would strongly encourage you to use this. And I'll tell you why. If you will, this will give you information that you're going to need later on in task 2. You could pull questions from your teacher working conditions survey. And if you do that, that's fine. Those questions have been validated. But make sure that you are getting questions about professional development, school improvement plans, their role in setting policy, budget input and management, and hiring process. But that's just extra work, my friends. I would say stick with this survey. And Dr. Lamb is actually, I think on Thursday night, going to show you how to take this survey and put it in Qualtrics.
Right.
So your survey is about teacher perception. It's how they believe, according to the Likert scale, how they believe, whether they strongly agree all the way to strongly disagree in these statements. So this is teacher perception about leadership outside of the classroom.
And that's the seminal word, Dr. Revis. Remember last evening, I told you to remember those two words, inside, outside. So you're going to look at teacher leadership outside the classroom. That's where this is. And now you're going to look for teacher leadership inside the classroom.
Okay, remember a survey is outside. Your checklist that you come up with. First and foremost, if your school already has a walkthrough instrument, use that school walkthrough form.
Okay, I want Dr. Revis, put it in the chat box. If you know that your school already has a walkthrough instrument, I want you to put either yes or no in there. Everybody, I just want to see where you stand with that in the chat box.
A lot of yeses.
Okay.
So Kimberly Sparks, we're gonna show you what to use. And there's somebody else, A. Williams.
Yeah, there's several that, not several, but there's some that do not. Okay. If you've got one already, then absolutely use what you have because it's validated, it's been approved by your school district. So that's what you would use. Okay, Dr. Revis, go ahead.
So if you don't have one, or as Kim said, we've changed so much at our school, the principal said she would prefer to use the one we're going to use. We're going to use one based on Marzano's high yield strategies. 9 high yield strategies. Guys, when I was assistant superintendent of curriculum in my school district, this is all we focused on right here. Because I promise you, if your teachers will do these 9 things and do them consistently and pervasively, your student learning will be amazing. Even learning in your subgroups of children who struggle, your second language learners and your students with disabilities. But now they have to be used pervasively and appropriately. You don't just throw out summarizing and note-taking just to say you've done it. It has to be used appropriately. So these are the best practices then that you would look for. I bet if you compare your walkthrough instrument, you're going to see some of these things on your walkthrough instrument. I bet. I don't know that for sure. Depends on what you're focusing on as a school district. But, non-linguistic representation. Good grief. We know that graphic organizers and non-linguistic representation support learning for all children, but it's essential for our EC children and for our second language learners. So what you're going to do is, again, use your walkthrough. In the absence of one, use this one. You're just going to do about 3 classroom walkthroughs. Now, you certainly can do more. If your principal wants to go with you and gives you permission, do more.
And we encourage you to walk with your principal or your assistant principal if you can. We encourage that.
Yes. And I encourage you to have conversations with your principal after you step out of the classroom and talk about what you saw and what your principals saw. See, two of us can walk in the same classroom, and number one, we're probably going to be focusing on different things. But if you've got a checklist, it makes you target your focus. And you're simply going to say, yes, I observed it or saw it, or no, I did not.
And you're
And
not
you're
going to
not gonna-
see everything every time.
Right. Okay.
Let me
So-
let me remind you again. Dr. Revis said this at the beginning because already some of you are already thinking, you are not doing walkthroughs, or you're not even conducting a survey with task one. All you're doing is you're going to get approval from us, the survey that you're going to use when you get to task two, and the checklist that you're going to use when you get to task two. So all you're doing right now, you're going to show us a blank checklist and a survey that has no results because you haven't used it yet. That's all you're doing for prompt 2 of task 1.
Thank you for reminding them. And guys, we do want to approve that. And let me tell you why. It's not just that we're on some kind of power trip, but if you're not collecting the correct data, you're going to have a hard time completing the AAPTEL. So we want to look at it and approve it in task 1 before you go on to task 2 and actually use it. Task 2 is where you're going to use it, but we're not there yet. Do we want to stop there, Dr. Stedman, and
Yeah,
ask
but
for
I want
questions?
to, I want to show them something though. Now you'll get all of this tomorrow, but I wanted to show them something that that I have. Let me see if I can prompt 2. This is prompt. Okay, this is prompt 2. Okay, the candidate will create a checklist. Okay, that's it. Like again, with this, we've actually, I've pulled that same information, from Todd Whitaker that you can use, and you'll hear it over and over again. But again, and I forgot the neutral owl. I apologize for that. Dr. Lamb is going to stress that again tomorrow night. Thursday night though. The checklist. There's Marzano's 9. But again, I'm saying all that to say that you're going to see this same stuff over and over and over again in lots of places, the same thing in a different way. So go ahead, Dr. Revis.
Well, I was just going to say, class, I did not post Dr. Stedman's PowerPoint. I have it. I didn't realize we were going to use it tonight.
You're not supposed to yet. I just happened to put it up there, but it's not due until Thursday.
But I will post it. So, guys, you'll have all this. But again, task 1 is on you. A lot of research, a lot of reading, and a lot of writing. Don't forget your APA. Don't backslide on APA. Remember, there's 2 things you've got to know in APA, 2 big things, I think. You got to know how to do an in-text citation, be it narrative or parenthetical. You've got to know how to do that. And you've got to know how to do your references. And if you know those 2 things and get good at that, you will be fine in this program.
So, okay. That's all we're going to talk about tonight, because I think that's enough to get you started. So you know what you got. You got to research 5 areas. There's 5 headings that you've got to research. And remember, it's not your opinion. It's what the research says based on what are the best practices for those 5 topics. All of them APA style. Okay?
And Jennifer asked the question, if you don't mind me just reading
Yes.
it.
Yes.
My district just started using a Google form for a walkthrough instrument. Yes, we've done that too. Should I include the link or type it into a chart? You need to type it into the chart, okay?
Yeah, we need to always see whatever it is that you're using, Jennifer, or anybody. Okay,
And your evaluator will want to see it. They're not going to want to do an
Yeah.
external link.
yeah, and
Michelle,
they
you
want-
got your hand up?
I'm sorry, I do have a question, but it's not about the AAPTEL task one. It's about our case study. So should I ask later?
hold your thought just a minute.
Okay.
Michelle. We'll come back to that. Yes.
Okay.
Other questions about the AAPTEL? Okay, do you understand with task one, you're researching 5 areas. That's a minimum of 15 resources that you're going to have, okay? A minimum of 15 resources for prompt 1. For prompt 2, remember, you're going to show us what is the survey that you're going to use to look at what teacher leadership and empowerment is or is not outside the classroom. And then your checklist is going to be, what does teacher leadership and empowerment look like inside the classroom? If you have a walkthrough instrument already, then that one's already done for you. Okay? And that's it. What is your responsibility with your team? You should share this information with your team at a minimum. Wouldn't you think so, Dr. Revis? Because you're going to lead them, you should share with them, and they may have some input, but basically task 1 is you're a lot on your own. You just need to share it with your team and get them back focused on, you need to talk to them about, what you're being tasked to do with the AAPTEL. If nothing more, talk to them about what you're going to be doing over the next 4 or 5 weeks with the AAPTEL at a minimum. Okay? Okay, Michelle, go ahead.
Once you get your task 1 in and we approve your walkthrough and your checklist, you can go ahead and start working on that and administering that.
You can, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that some Thursday evening, but you know the routine now. You don't have to wait on us if you understand it to go ahead and get started. That's why the next 2 weeks, the rest of this week and next week are going to be valuable, to really get ahead of the game. You can get ahead of the game with all of this. You know what to do now. Okay? We start back after, once that task 1 is due for us, and that is not due this week, although you may go ahead and some of you, I think, probably will have it ready for us by the end of the week. I almost can promise you somebody will. That means that once they're in there, you can go ahead and start on your peer reviews because you know that process. So you don't have to wait on that. Okay.
Neely, did you have a question?
I think it's answered. So task 1 is not due for 2 more weeks, technically. Is that correct?
That's correct, Neely.
But we can go and get it going and get it done if we
Yes,
want.
yeah, that's the whole
Perfect.
purpose in us doing this, is so we can get you ahead of the game. And again, you won't have Dr. Stebbin and Dr. Revis breathing down your neck, for the next week. You can get a little reprieve from us anyway. Okay, a little
Sounds
bit,
good.
just a little bit. Okay, Michelle, now we'll go back to your question about the case study.
Okay, so on the directions, it says write a 1-page 2-part. I guess I'm just trying to clarify, is that 2 pages then, since it's 1 page 2-part? So one part is 1 page and another part is another page?
It's, just again, that is just to kind of give some direction. I would say, you want to make sure you cover it, but if it's a page and you cover it all, that's fine. If it's 2 pages and you takes that to do it, then we're fine too, as long as you cover what you need to cover.
Okay.
Again, you're going to talk about, you're going to just recount, we don't want regurgitation of the case study because we can read that, but basically summarize what the case study was about, your takeaways from the case study, the highlighted points so that we know that you understand it. And then, the second part is your reflection on, your work with your team and, the takeaways from working with your team with the case study as well. So it's a reflection and it's just a recount of, the highlights of the case study itself.
Okay, thank you.
And again, in your narrative work, any of you could talk about, I would relate it to lessons learned in the AAPTEL as well, and that could be some of the research that you've done as well. It's a good time to talk about research. I will tell you, and again, he was the first one to turn it in, so I read it at the beginning. Carl did an amazing job reflecting on the research and the readings that he had done with the AAPTEL. So, so I'm just saying that this is your opportunity to tie it all together. Okay, Mallory? Can't hear you.
I gotta get to my unmute. Okay, hey. I'm going back to the AAPTEL if
Okay.
you're ready for my question.
Sure.
Okay, so you said 15 resource minimum.
Right, that's 3 for each one.
Okay, so you also encouraged us to use, let's say, Whitaker, maybe in a couple of areas. So that wouldn't make it 15, I guess, in my reference.
That would be Whitaker used twice, but in a different way, because Whitaker would be, if you used Whitaker twice, it would be Whitaker talking about best practices and research in one area, but it would be Whitaker talking about another area. So you can use Whitaker twice, but it's not going to be the same resource from Whitaker.
Okay, that makes sense.
That makes
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
But you can't, but Whitaker can be used twice in that minimum of 15. Okay.
Sounds good.
Good.
And he's written a lot.
A
of
lot.
books,
Yeah.
Articles and
Okay. Other questions? Do you feel, how are you feeling about getting started on the AAPTEL? Do you feel good about knowing how to get started? You know what to do. Thumbs up if you do. Good. So everybody, and again, you'll hear a lot of this stuff again Thursday night. You'll probably want to throw up after hearing all of it again. But anyway, here's one more time. But it'll be enough to get you fully started and on your way to being successful with it. You're going to find your work with the AAPTEL, and I don't want you to get nonchalant about it, but you're gonna say, because of what you've already done, you're gonna say, this is so much easier. And it will be easier because you have learned a lot already. However, I don't want you to get comfortable with the fact and not put the effort and the quality that you need to put into your work because of that. Okay. Now, I will tell you, your evaluators will take a much more critical look at your work on the AAPTEL. So,
and Dr. Stedman mentioned this before, but let me underscore this. You will start doing peer reviews again on the AAPTEL Task 1.
right.
Okay. All right, guys. There you go, Neely. We've got this.
Carl, I've made you popular. I think you've got a fan club with you right now.
Dr. Lamb said, burn that midnight oil.
Just
trying to burn that oil. Staying with that oil, man.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right.
Carl's a preacher's kid, so he grew up with the oil in church anyway.
Oh, goodness. Guys,
is
you're
fair.
gonna find out, you're gonna be great going into this AAPTEL. It's gonna be so much easier for you because you, number one, you know how to do research, you know your APA, you know the pace and the rhythm and the sequence of how things have to flow. You're gonna do great the rest of the semester.
Mhm. I like that, Andalicia. She said, "Absol got her ready."
That's right, it did. And you know what? The rest of your program's just like this.
Uh-huh.
You've already jumped through the biggest hurdle, getting that first evidence work behind you.
You really have. So,
All right.
okay. We will see you on Thursday with bells on, okay? Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye, superstars.
Bye.
Hey, Dr. Stedman, I have a question.
Sure.
For the competencies that we're working on, I thought I heard you say last night that we should have had that turned in. Did I miss that? Like, should that have already been all in there already?
The 12 competencies,
Yeah, in the task stream.
you should have turned them in for review.
Okay, and then how do I turn the task stream in? Or just they're in there and you can see them? Is that what it
No,
is? Or-
you have to remember you set up your folio. Remember that?
Yes, I have that set up. Yeah.
Okay, so you have to go in there and you have to put them in there, and then you have to request comment. You have to request comments from me. You have to give me permission to look at it.
Okay, so for each one, each one that's done, I need to request a comment from you.
You check only the 12 that's done.
Okay,
Please don't check all 21 because I'll have to open them all up, and 9 of them are not ready for that. So just
Okay.
check the ones that you need to. And remember, there's a little a video. Remember, and we talked about the video. Dr. Revis pointed that out. I think it was week 6. I think that on that video too that she went through that process.
okay, okay.
So
Thank
got
you.
it. But anyway, look at that. Call us if you need. Call me if you need me. Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Derek, do you have a question? Okay. Neely, you have a question? I think they're not there.
Yeah, Dr. Revin said she wanted to talk to me about the task stream, but I think she forgot.
I thought she was going to set up. Let me.
Oh, okay, said something out.
let me-
Uh-oh. I'm trying to figure out how I did this.